Centralization is the wrong word. It's been completely misapplied in the multifamily space. I am fully convinced of this now. I had the opportunity and privilege to watch Moshe Crane and Michael Demeti. I apologize, Michael, if I mispronounced your last name. Debate yesterday on Chris Arnold's Transforming Cities live podcast, or not podcast, but a live event on LinkedIn. The word centralization, the strict definition, it was interesting to me. A couple of weeks prior to this debate happening, and I'd written and published a blog post that really debunked the idea of centralization. I started out by giving the strict definition of centralization, and the strict definition of centralization is command and control. It is putting the decision-making authority in the hands of very few individuals, just a couple of people making decisions. Oh, let me introduce not only a couple of people, but maybe technology. Revenue management is a perfect example of this. You know, we can argue whether or not you should have guardrails around LRO or revenue management. We could argue about that. Okay. But let's just presuppose for a second that we don't have to put guardrails around it. It just does its thing. That is happening in the multifamily space under the guise of centralization. Centralization is the wrong word. What we are truly trying to do in the multifamily space is organizational design. Organizational design and the principles that are associated with organizational design, the principles that are associated with that. That is what we're trying to do. We're calling it centralization, but that's not what it is. Centralization is simply putting many of the most impactful decisions that you're going to make for your organization in the hands of a few individuals that are going to govern the decisions. They're going to make those decisions, and then the rest of the team members are just going to do what is decided. I heard a profound discussion today that disclosed this fully. And this was not what the conversation was about centralization, but a person on the call that I was sitting on said, we have a command center in our corporate office that governs the labor distribution of our team. So it's a company that is completely a sort of, I'm going to use the word centralization because that's what they use. Everything is centralized. No people work on site. And everybody is kind of moving all about. They're very specialized in their role, and they move about the portfolio germane to that specialization. But the statement that this person made, we have a command and control center in our corporate office. You don't get to govern your day. You are told what to do from the people in our command center. Your calendar is not your calendar. It's whatever I put on your calendar. That is your day. That's on the leasing side of the business, and that is on the service side of the business. And that is really what we're moving toward. We're calling it centralization. It is not that. It is organizational design, and it is about command and control. And right now, today, that particular organization is human, right? The human commands and controls where the people go. Very quickly, very, very quickly, that's going to give way to AI being the choreographer, right? AI is going to do the labor distribution. AI is going to do the choreography. It's going to be so sophisticated that it understands how much time it's going to take for David, the service team member, to get from this place to this place. It's going to take Google Maps into consideration. I've been talking about this for years. Not my novel ideas, by the way. Talking about it for years, however. That will do the labor distribution. And the more far-reaching thing is that when appliances become even smarter than they are today, and they start to draw more amperage out of an electrical system as a tell for it needs some service, that thing's going to govern the labor distribution, right? AI is going to govern it, but AI is going to act like a middleman in the labor distribution. It's going to know how far away David is. It's going to know if David has the part on his truck. and it's going to know if David has the right skill set to actually go and attack that problem. And it's going to do the labor distribution. My big punchline question is, are we as a human race going to receive this idea of being bossed around by a computer? Being bossed around by a computer, not a human. This is going to be it's not even a human today, a human in a system that's putting a ticket in, and then that human is assigning, doing some things. This is far more sophisticated than that. This is our life being reduced to an algorithm and being governed and pushed around is the word that comes to mind. It's the wrong word, but sort of pushed around in what we do on a daily basis as somebody that works in a labor force. That's compelling. The bigger punchline is this. You just stop using the word centralization. I know Moshe thinks that way. I know Michael thinks that way. I know there are others in the multifamily space that think that way. I think the vendor supplier side has really just latched onto this centralization idea and concept and principle. It's the vocabularies are completely different. Centralization, the vocabulary and the vernacular and the principles that govern centralization are very different than the principles and vocabulary in an organizational design ecosystem. We need to start talking about this organizational design, the principles that govern that, the vocabulary that governs that kind of thought process, and zero-based thinking or first principles think, all those things kind of govern that. Use those in governing that, in those mental models that govern that, versus centralization. We just stop using the word centralization because it's not a thing. It's a thing, but it doesn't fit what we're trying to do. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.